Welcome to the Automaticist.
Hello world. So in this video I'm going to be showing you the basic components inside of every computer. So the first thing that you need to understand is that this is the computer. So even though you might think of a computer as something like this, where you have a keyboard, a mouse, and a monitor, maybe some other stuff, the actual computing happens inside the black, usually, box that looks like this. And here's my hand for scale. This is a fairly large computer compared to what most offices have. So in order to show you what's inside, I am actually gonna open it up. So that's why this computer case has these screws on it. And I will be readjusting the camera as soon as I open this up. And most computers open up in a similar way. Okay, now that that's open up, I'll be switching camera positions. Alright, so now that I have the computer open, I can show you what's inside. However, because I don't want to damage the components of my computer, I am going to be using an Esd Strap so that I am not frying my components with static electricity. So it's just a little strap like this. If you work on computers, you have to have one just so that you don't ruin the tiny circuits that are inside so many of the components. If your computer is unplugged, you pretty much can't get like electrocuted from it unless you do something really stupid. So this is essentially the main innards of a computer. So we're going to start with the most important part of the computer, and that's this. So under this heatsink and fan is the processor. And that's basically the part of the computer that does the computing. Now, that wouldn't be very useful on its own because it wouldn't know what to compute. So that's where we have stuff like the RAM. So it's sort of down here, and there's a couple of chips of RAM. So if we can zoom in, it's these little white sticks. Now, these are right in here. So whenever you say someone has 16 gigabytes of RAM or whatever the number may be, this is the physical component that is attached to that number. So if you double the number of sticks of RAM and they're the same type of sticks, you've doubled your RAM capacity. And that's why you can't download RAM, because it's a physical thing inside your computer. And then next, of course, you'll hear this one a lot too, to zoom back out. So that is the hard drive, or in this case, hard drives. So you'll hear about, is your hard drive running slow, filling up, out of space, you need to back it up? This is the thing that you back up that runs out of space and such. So the hard drive is different from RAM in that RAM will be emptied when you shut off your computer. So it's not where you store photos unless you're editing them, for example. Or it's not where you store video games. You store video games on your hard drive or in the cloud these days sometimes. Basically, it's mass storage as compared to this, which you can't see too well. That's an SSD, and it essentially does the same thing as a hard drive. It's more modern, it's faster, it's smaller, and it's more expensive because it's more modern. So that's your mass storage out of the way. Now, a lot of computers have something like this. So this is a graphics card. And the reason for that is, yes, the CPU is for all the computing, but for rendering things onto a display, requires a very specialized type of calculation. So CPUs can only do that very slowly just because they're meant for general computation. So the graphics card is like a processor, but it's specifically designed just for outputting to a display. So just for putting the picture on the screen. And it's important to have a more powerful graphics card if you do anything video or photo related. Even audio can help with, just because you might have like a bunch of waveforms and such, and especially gaming. That's really where you see it the most, is with gaming graphics cards. Now, powering the whole computer is of course the power supply. So that's right down here. And it's usually its own like little box within the bigger computer box. And of course, all this stuff increasingly requires cooling fans and heat sinks. So we can see a heat sink and a fan on the graphics card. Same on the processor. It's an even bigger heat sink. It's this tall, right? Now, right here's basically the processor is basically at this level, and the heatsink is this tall, essentially. And then there's a fan, and there's more fans throughout the system that aren't really cooling anything in particular. They're just providing airflow. There's one back here, one over here, and one there. And that's essentially that. Now, connecting all of this stuff is the motherboard. So that's kind of hard to see because everything is in the way, which is kind of the point. You know, we have our slots, so should we want to add a second graphics card or something like that, you know, that's where you would plug in stuff like that. We have a chipset right here, and that really helps to facilitate communication between such things as the graphics card and the processor and the RAM, and also the hard drives, indirectly though. Of course, up here, again, can't see it too well, but this is the optical drive. A lot of computers don't have these now, generally because not that many DVDs are being used and produced anymore, which largely happened because of laptops. And that's essentially what's going on. So we have our CPU, we have our GPU, as it's sometimes called, which is the graphics card, RAM, hard drives. This is 2 hard drives. So most computers just have one or maybe one SSD. And then we have our power supply, of course. And that's a quick look at what's inside a typical computer. So now that I'm done working inside this computer, I can take off my static strap or Esd strap. And I can close up the panel. And I just have this little sticker on it just from when I built this computer in 2015, somewhere around there, and I've upgraded it since then. So yeah, so that's that. I am considering doing a new build and maybe changing cases and whatnot sometime in the future. So thank you for watching this video in its entirety. It means a lot to me. If you liked it, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the content that is coming out on this channel. I will see you in whatever that next video is that you decide to watch from here. Signing out.